I'm going to do a Tesserae matchup. So I'll get into that in a bit. If you're new here, we have a free guide of all my supplies, all my go-tos of tools, adhesives, supplies for beads and tile and such are all listed in there. So you can get that in the links. If you comment supplies in Facebook, it'll send you a direct DM with the link to download that freebie guide. In the past Mosaic Mondays, I've been doing these make along projects where we've been walking through a little bit of my process. And if you've enjoyed that and you'd like to go deeper, I recommend my membership. That's where we do deep dives into techniques, specific materials, resources. That's where I really go into much more detail in my process and in the materials I'm using. Today, I'm not going to be working on anything specific. I'm going to be breaking down a palette of materials for a mosaic. I've curated a special collection around a specific plate pattern. When I'm working with vintage china, I am usually working around a pattern and a specific color tone or collection of textures and so on. So I'm going to just kind of demystify that process for you today and hopefully help inspire you or build some confidence in collecting mosaic materials. Okay, so I'm going to share my table view here and let's see. I have a couple pieces laid out that I finished from before that I used china on. Here are some pieces that I've made in the past where I worked around a piece of china. So this specific chicken mosaic, which many of you have made from the kit as well, was all inspired by this Ming rose pattern right here. So the Ming rose is used here in the bottom and then in the neck and in the tail feathers. I wonder if I believe I have a full plate of this somewhere, but anyway, I can grab it later. And then from there, I built in other materials with other textures to complement the plate pattern. So we have some gold leaf smelty in the beak here, red rhinestones in the, what do you call that part? I always like the gizzard. um, and then some little pink tiles around the tail feathers just for playing with scale, and some more scalpeled tiles here, and then hand cut feathers for the wing. And then more china from a different pattern filling the rest of the belly. And then for this owl, I used vintage china in here too, but two different patterns. So there's this, what is this one called? It starts with an M. It'll come to me. And then this leaf pattern here I use a lot for mimicking feathers. And then I combined Italian smalty in with the body and the face to give more of a realistic feathery look. So that's a couple ways that I've incorporated a mixed media assortment of material with china. And then this piece as well was also inspired by this really soft palette of china colors. So this is a pattern that just has a really beautiful mix of pastels. And then I mixed in some other plates and pieces for the rest of the body with gold smalty and beads here. So often my students will tell me that they get stuck on putting together mosaic materials and colors. So I have bundles in my shop. They're called Mosaic Tesserae Treasure Bundles. So Tesserae is the term used to describe all of the materials in a mosaic. So Tesserae can include pebbles, bottle caps, anything goes. So whatever you're using in your mosaic falls under the term tesserae. So our tesserae, or my tesserae in these projects, includes vintage plates, glass, rhinestones, beads, and so on. This piece was only Italian smalty, and that's pretty rare for me to work with just one specific material. I can hardly help myself but to start mixing everything together. So this was kind of a rare exception. Okay, so to get into our matchup, I'm calling it a matchup because I'm matching up a bunch of different tesserae using this plate. Well, I actually have two plate patterns, but they're very similar. But I'm using these as the jumping point. So I'm working off of these specific colors, and this is really helpful to do because it gives you some guardrails. When we're combing through all of our supplies, it can be a little hard to stay focused because everything is so pretty. I mean, if you're like me, you want to include everything in your mosaic. So this gives us some guardrails and to keep us focused on one path, one plan. So I'm looking specifically at this type of blue, this yellow, and so on. So we have a lot to work with here, but I really want to capture the bright boldness and just the festive party feel. So I'm calling this collection the Phyllis Garden Party bundle. And because this pattern specifically, well, this is the Drusilla, and this one is Phyllis. So Phyllis and Drusilla. I could have gone with Phyllis and Drusilla, but that name got kind of long. Um, Angela, you just ordered some smalty but haven't used it yet. Oh, fun. I can't wait to hear more about that. Um, did you order a certain color palette or a mix of a little bit of everything? I'm just going to check your questions. Let me know if you have any questions along the way. Okay, so with using the china as our base of this mix, we're going to first add in the easy and bigger. I'm going to start from big and then go small, work my way to the smaller, finer stuff. So using an avalanche of supplies happening here. Okay, scooting this table. I almost had a big collapse. Okay, so we're gonna work from our biggest pieces and go smaller. So starting with the next smaller tile. Oh, Angela, you ordered a variation of blues for a blue jay. Yes. Oh, that sounds beautiful. Yeah, what's nice about Smalty is that you can get that beautiful gradation, and which works so well for when you're working on animals and you want to capture the body and the shift in the fur and feathers. Okay, so this tile I love. And so I really enjoy working with vintage supplies, but I also mix in more commercial material too. So it gives us a nice variety in shapes and sizes and just quantities too, because sometimes you just need consistency in one specific color, one size, and so on, and easy access. So with commercial manufactured tile, you can just order it whenever you need, which is really nice. Where with vintage supplies, you have to source it and search, which can be really fun, but also there's limits. So mixing commercial tile with your vintage material just helps to extend and build our supplies and build unique collections and variety. So these specific tiles I really love. This teardrop shape is specifically because this one's thinner. Often these manufactured tiles will be really thick, but this one specifically is thinner. And I ordered this I've ordered it from a few different places and it's not always consistent. So this one specifically, I usually get it from Amazon, which I don't love. I try to avoid, getting materials from Amazon. If I can get it from a supplier, I will. But this one is from Amazon, but sometimes I do order it and it comes in the thicker version. So I don't always love that, but usually it's pretty consistent that it comes this way. So this color, this green specifically, is just really great. I love this green. And so it comes in there's three different sizes. So there's a small and a medium and a large. So this is really fun when you're creating. You can even swap this out for feathers. I've seen people do that in my chicken. Where did she go? These feathers are a little tricky for cutting, so I've seen people swap in these for the feathers instead. And even with having a few different sizes to work with, that works really well. And you can still alter them and cut them into different shapes. So you don't have to use them as they are, because that can look a little too like repetitive or too perfect, too matchy. So you could alter them by just simply cutting and reshaping the teardrop a little bit on the bottom. You can also use them to create a really beautiful scallop. So like in here, that's what I did here, is just cut off the bottom. And then you can save this other side for something later. Maybe that could be a flower with just the scalloped portion cut off, and then you save this part for a flower in another project. Okay, so I'm going to try to keep my matchup organized as we go, because it's going to get crowded here. There's a lot coming. All right, and I like to be able to see all of the patterns. So I'm going to keep these facing out, and then I'm going to put these tiles here. And when I spill out my tiles, I also flip them so I can see the color, because sometimes the back can kind of drown out the colors that you're trying to build. All right, so there's one tile, and then here's the other tile that I'm adding to this bundle. So this one's a little bit thicker, you can see. This is probably this one's a 3mm, and this one I would say is a 4mm. So it's just slightly thicker, which isn't that big of a deal, but when you're working on a smaller scale, every little bit of depth that you're pressing into your adhesive can impact the materials around them. So the thinner your material, the easier it is just to get everything to settle in next to each other without disrupting the pattern. These are a little bit thicker, but I love this blue, how it works with the blue in the plate. So it's just a really good match. So I'm going to go with that. This blue is a little bit more of a true kind of dustier blue than what I normally tend to lean towards, more of the aqua blues. So I'm trying to stay focused and not go into my default setting of the aqua blues. And sometimes I have to comb through my first picks and edit. The first pack of your Smalty was so small, Angela. Yes, yeah. That's something that's hard to know when you're ordering mosaic supplies, is quantities and sizes too. It can be really confusing, especially when we're ordering beads and rhinestones, and even tile. When you're not used to reading or measuring in millimeters, it takes a while to catch on to that and to be able to visualize. And then even quantities, a quarter pound versus a full pound. And usually with tile, it'll tell you in the description how much coverage you'll get out of a 1 pound of a specific tile. So it'll say in this 1 pound of tile, you'll receive 720 tiles, and it will cover 1 square foot, or so on. And so it's just a lot of math, actually. Okay, so the next big matchup tile I'm going to add is the matte doll tile. And this has a really vibrant orange. Their orange, the brightest orange, used to be more of this actual ceramic porcelain feel, but now it has more of a glass body to it, which is really interesting. It's kind of a mix between a ceramic and glass. I'm not really sure how to describe that. And it cuts a little different. It looks more like glass on the inside when you cut it. But anyway, this is the Clementine doll tile in their Keystone. And it's a 2" by 2". And I love using this for cutting kind of ranunculus shaped flowers. I use them a lot in these mini florals that we make. And I think they would also work well for bigger, fuller pieces, like, again, like these feathers here, replicating this fuller shape for any kind of organic flowers or feathers and so on. So these are going to be included as our big full pieces as well. And so I have, again, this truer dusty blue. Okay, so I think that's all of our tiles. So this brings in a little bit of the matte and ceramic. And when I look at these other shapes here too, I always think about how can I alter these. So I would likely, if I were to use this shape, I would likely cut it in half and work it in to a scallop like pattern or stack it with a line of some other materials. So I'll demonstrate that later. Okay, so now we're going to get into the glass. And with the glass, I like to have a variety of shapes and sizes there as well. And we're going to start with these bigger strips of mirror. So these actually come in, these are from Mosaic Trader, and they come in a sheet. Let me grab a little one here. This one's kind of old and crumpled, but it comes on a sheet like this, and it's all sticky, and you have to peel them off individually. In my shop, we've been soaking them in soapy water. That seems to be the best way to get them to release without having to pull them off individually. But you can buy blends like this, which is really nice because then you get, it's kind of like a pre-made assortment ready to go. So you can mix and match or just use them individually. But there's one blend that has this nice dark kind of rusty orange, which is really nice. So when I'm putting together a palette, I like to have my really dark saturated colors and then my lightest colors. So we have a lot of dark colors right now, but we're going to bring in some lights later. So this is another dark and saturated color, and it also brings in a little texture. Oh, that's a dark brown. Okay, so this also brings in a little bit of texture. You can see in the mirror there's that kind of rippled look. And yes, Robin, these are from Mosaic Trader, and they're in the Netherlands, but they ship really fast. And they will let you know how to maximize your order for the weight for shipping. And I do see a lot of Etsy sellers carry their products too. There's a lot of mosaic suppliers on Etsy. Okay, so here is our mirror. So I always include a little bit of mirror. Well, not always, but I try to include a little bit of mirror, and that's the mirror. And then I also like to have, oh wait, I have one more mirror actually. So we're gonna add this green, this spring green. I love this too. This is also Mosaic Trader. And we're gonna sprinkle a little bit of this in here. Actually, I'll put it over here so I can see those colors. All right. Okay, so those are our two mirrors. And then I'm going to add in some iridescent glass. So I try to add, when I'm using tiles, I like to have a variety of shapes and sizes. So we have two in a large penny. These are the penny rounds, and a smaller square, because when you're building patterns in a mosaic, it's really helpful to have a variety of shapes and sizes. But you also want to have a couple that match so that you can do alternating patterns if you want. So let's say you wanted to alternate this tile with another color. So it's nice to have two that are the same shape and size so that when you alternate them, you can match them up that way. So we're going to add these iridescent yellows and then these iridescent penny rounds. So now we have our iridescent rounds, iridescent tiny squares, mirrored rectangle strips, and petal and teardrop ceramics. And these are meant to be used with the smooth side up, but you can do what you want. My daughter, kids just love to use the bumpy side up, but they're meant to be the smooth side up. They don't like it when you tell them that. I've had a little experience. I just have to stay out of the way and let mosaics be. Okay, so with the stained glass, we're going to add pink. So this pink is really a cool pink. It has a little bit of like blue to it. Can you see the blue? And this pink here is a really kind of a cool toned pink as well. So this works great together. So we're going to put that pink in. And then this blue is from Mosaics by Maria, and I love her. Oh, you like the bumpy side too, Angela? Okay. All right. I'm going to try to embrace the bumpy side. Okay, this is kind of like a cornflower iridescent stained glass blue from Mosaics by Maria. These are her skinnies, which are some of my favorites. So I usually have her skinnies in every color she offers because they come in handy. They always come in handy, and it's just a really unique shape that fits so many sizes of mosaics. So we're gonna definitely have some of these in here. And this one, this color bridges, there's a little bit of a purple in here. Where is that purple? It's in this one. It's a little bit of a purple, and then so in the iridescent glimmers, you can pick up a little bit of that dark purple. And it looks really good with that blue too. All right, so there's that. And then I also have some of this iridescent glass tile. This is really old. Some of the tile I bought when I first started making mosaics. And it's blue, but it has a little bit of some gray to it. It's just like a cloudy gray blue. And this is really nice too because it's not so bright and bold, and it balances out everything else. You can tell it's old because I have some little remnants of pieces that didn't work. Okay, so I'm going to put those in there. There's a brand called Sea Cheese Tile. I think that's what this one is. The girls at my shop labeled all of our jars this way to match up with the colors they were putting inside, and I've mixed them. I've ruined the system. I've mixed them all up. Amy, you have that blue. Is it the cornflower blue? Yeah, I think everyone should have this one. Okay, and then this orange is lovely too because there's a lot of variation. This one's a Mosaic Trader, and there's just some variation within the tile itself. So even if you don't like one side, you can flip it over and check out the other side, and it's a little different. So that's always nice because then you have some variety to work with in your supplies. And then it also keeps your mosaic from looking so flat and heavy when you have a little variation throughout your pieces of the tile themselves. Okay, so I think that's all of, yes, that's all of the tiles. Now we're gonna start adding some of the beads. We're gonna work our way down into the smaller materials now. And starting with this rhinestone chain. So this is a commercial rhinestone chain. I've been finding some really good ones on Amazon, and I also buy from JF Allen as well. So the price range is pretty dramatic. The ones on Amazon are very inexpensive. You can find them in my Amazon shop in the beads category, I believe, the ones that I've purchased that have worked out well. So this is a hot pink, and it looks so good with the pink in this dish. So this is a definite yes. But I do love the Percocia is the brand of the really nice rhinestone chain that JF Allen carries. Those can range by the square foot, if you price it out by the square foot, anywhere from $2 per square foot, where the Amazon ones you can get under $1 per square foot for these. Okay, so next, after the rhinestone chain, I'm going to add in Some of these beads have been really popular since I used them in that little tulip recently, and they work really well for this palette too, that blue together. So I'm going to add some of these. Let's see. I also love to have some glass pearls in every project. So they don't always work out in every project, but I consider them for every project. So we're going to add these pink pearls, which I've been using a lot of these. This color is actually discontinued. This is a check glass bead, and I think this is the 4mm. I usually get the 4 and the 3mm. So this is the 4 and this is the 3. You can see the difference in the sizes, but it's really nice to have a few different sizes to work with. And I also do like using the 2mm too. Those are quite a bit smaller. But every batch that you get will have a slight variation in color. So the dye lots can vary. And also, if you are buying from a vendor on eBay, if it's an old stock, they can fade a little bit. So this one I got from eBay, and you can see there's a little bit of variation. Then this one is just a little bit darker. But yes, the salmon color was my favorite, and that's the one. I'm not sure if I have any here. That's the one we used in the tulip kit, and it's discontinued. So I've been kind of searching around for more of that. Okay, and then I also love this teardrop pink that Mosaics by Maria carries these too. So here you can see Mosaics by Maria pink mix teardrop tiles. And these are fairly inexpensive. She has lots of different sizes and colors. I use them here and there. So they work really well. Layering, they are super, super thin. So if you needed to layer them on top of a mosaic, on top of existing materials, they work great for that. So let's say I had, and even if you need to hide something, let's say you made a little mistake and you wanted to hide a spot or just blend in a seam, you can stack them on top, or even like a grout line. If a grout line looks too big, you can just glue it on top, and it is so flush, and it has such a low profile that it just blends into the mosaic without looking out of place. So I really love these for that. And these are pink, but not that bright saturated pink. They're muted, which brings a little bit of a different tone and softness into the palette. So I'm going to include these as well. And they have that pearlescent finish, but in a different shape. Then for rhinestones, which, you know, we all love rhinestones. So these are a Navette blue iridized tiny. They're tiny. This must be, I haven't measured them, but I'm guessing, let's see, probably a 6mm by 3mm. And this shape is it's called Navette, and it works really well for scallop or like fan shapes. If you're laying out a fan shape pattern, they work great for that. And then these are, I think these are a light rose pear. And I put my little paper swatch in each container so I can remember if I need to order more. So yeah, so it's a light rose, 4mm by 8mm Swarovski. It came in a pack of 5 gross. So I'm not sure. I think this might be the full 5 gross, which doesn't look like very much once you get it all put away. So I shared my big unboxing video of some rhinestones I bought in January in my membership. Most of those, believe it or not, most of those rhinestones are gone. We've used them up, and everyone has been asking, what are you possibly going to use all those for? But we use them a lot in our kits and our bundles. Hi, Judy. I just saw that you're here. Um, oh, good. Hello, Marissa. I'm so glad you're here too. Um, yes, these blue beads. Thank you, Christy. Yes, these blue beads, these are from, or these rhinestones, they are called a Pentagon. I can show you the packaging. And Christy has also seen them called coffin-shaped rhinestones. But this package is Pentagon, and it's this really fun blue color. There's a little variation inside the glass even. And so, yes, I came across these at CJS sales in New York. The size is, it's a pretty generous piece. It feels more like a tile than a rhinestone. And it's an opaque glass. It is glass. It looks a little plasticky, but it's glass. And I was researching this type of rhinestone, and there's limited colors. There's a green and a pink, blue, orange. I recognize this in some of the other tiles we have. But yeah, so I bought them all up at CJS sales because I've never seen them before. And I did a Google image reverse search, and came across one other supplier that has them online, and he's selling them for 85 cents a piece. So I'm just working with kind of a smaller supply that I picked up from there, and I'm just going to be using them in different kits and bundles until they're gone. So this bundle will include them. I'm not sure. I haven't measured out exact quantities for everything, but when we use the rhinestones, we'll have a dozen at least of each. This bundle size, I've proportioned out a sample, and I'll show it to you when we get there. Okay, so this is the next rhinestone, and this is that kind of dusty true blue color as well. I was saying earlier, I tend to gravitate towards the more aqua blues. So this color palette it challenges me to stay focused. I have to kind of create this tunnel vision of color and have these guardrails where I don't go off track. So that's what I think is really nice about working with plate patterns, because there was a designer at one time that did all this work for us. If you think about all the work that had to have gone into putting together this color palette, and this mix of these different flowers, and even the scale and the sizes, someone's done all this heavy lifting for us, and now we can just match and play with texture and our materials using this as our inspiration. Okay, so this one is actually, this rhinestone, it came as aquamarine, but it doesn't look like aquamarine to me. And when you search aquamarine rhinestones, it usually does not show this color. This looks more like a light sapphire to me. So it's interesting that it was in this package, but I'm just going to keep this in here just in case I need to reorder more in the future. And I'll just give it a chance, because you never know. I could be wrong on that. Okay, and then another rhinestone, same color, bigger size. These are really nice this size is nice for accents, like the center of a flower or something where you need a little bit of a bigger, bolder piece. And then this rhinestone, this is one of my very favorites. It is an opal yellow, and I love anything opal, and the yellow is just, I have a hard time working with really bright, sunshiny. I don't have a lot of yellow. I don't use a lot of yellow and red, but the really bright sunflower yellows I struggle with, but this more muted, softer opalescent yellow I really love. So we're going to have this one in here too. Okay, so that's all for rhinestones. And then I'm going to add in some seed beads and bugle beads. So we've worked our way down from our biggest pieces, and then we're going to add in our finest detailed pieces next. And I do have, so seed beads are really confusing. One thing that I think is a struggle for anyone starting mixed media mosaics is buying all the different materials and how to navigate the sizes. Figuring out what sizes you need can be really tricky. And then when you get into buying them, the sizes, knowing what to order can be overwhelming. So especially with seed beads, because seed beads can be sized anywhere from 13, 15, 13, 11, 9. They're odd numbers. So 11 is the standard seed bead size, and that's what this one is. This is an eggshell. It's a percocia. That's a really common bead, Czech bead brand. And this creamy iridescent, it's like it has a faceted surface on it, so it catches the light in a glimmery way. So I love that versus your like standard seed bead, which is just a smooth, continuous body. And this little extra bit of cut on the surface makes it catch the light and glimmer. So, so this is a standard 11, and this is going to be our lightest color. So I like to have really dark, saturated colors and then some lights as well. So this is our light. And we also have some light in this yellow. And then this seed bead, I rarely use bigger than 11, but this one is kind of nice. And I've had this in my classes, in my, I have Minneapolis studio classes about once a month. And I added these to our supplies there just to see how they would do, because sometimes these little tiny beads are they're too small for some people. So I added these, and these have been kind of popular, and they look really good too. So this is a size 9, and that can be really confusing for, at least it is for me with seed beads, because 9 is a smaller number than the standard 11, but the bead gets bigger. So it's like the numbers move opposite. So the smaller the number, the bigger the bead. And then the bigger the number, the smaller the bead. So I don't have any size 13s or 15s here. But trust me, they're a lot smaller. And I usually don't even go that small, but sometimes it's kind of fun to have. They're harder to find too. Okay, so now I'm going to add some metallic. I love having metallics in every mosaic, whether it's silver or gold. So we can often look, when you're using china as inspiration, you can see here there's a gold rim. So we can take that as a cue of what's going to work really well for this pattern. So matching up the golds is pretty easy to do and takes out some of that guesswork. So here's our metallic in a seed bead. And then I also have the metallic in a bugle bead. So this bugle bead is this is a twisted bugle bead. It has a little bit of, do you see that twist in the surface? And that catches the light in a different way too. And it's also kind of a pattern in itself, the way that it moves, the twist moves through each piece. So bugle beads can come in long lengths and shorter lengths. And I believe this is a number 3. So there's a number 2, number 3, and I think a number 5 seed bead or bugle bead length. And this is probably the most versatile length. It's not very short, not so short that it might get confused as a seed bead, but not so long that it's hard to work around curves. All right, and then I do have a little bit of red. I had to force myself to order some red for our bundles recently because I have colors that are just not my natural go-to colors. So I ordered these reds, and I really do love this, the way that it catches the light, and it's a little bit transparent, it seems, in some spots, and it's not as opaque in a way. So there's some variation throughout the bead itself in the color and depth. And in between each piece, it seems to be a little bit darker. And I think that works really well. We're starting to lose our pattern. It works really well with these. more bright, darker saturated oranges right here. So we'll have a little bit of that red in the mix. And then, yes, this is the yellow. I also needed to order more yellows. And this is the one I really struggle with using, but I can see it working with this pattern and feeling more ease with using a color I'm not as familiar or comfortable with using when I have a pattern like this to complement. So this yellow works well. How about you guys? Tell me, what do you think about yellows? Is it easy for you to use yellow, or is there a certain color that challenges you? I think we all have them. It's just, and it can even change season to season because there was a time when I made a lot of mosaics in red. I used a lot of red. Okay, so we have another bugle bead. We're getting to the greens now. This is a silver lined bugle bead. So silver lined has this metallic undertone to it, which is just an extra little glimmer. And I love that. So that's our green bugle. And then we have this silver lined seed bead as well. This opaque kind of eggshell seed bead is just another nice green that looks really good with this tile. Debbie, our yellow seed beads, Charlotte's. And yes, so it's been where I get these from Shipwrecked Beads too, and sometimes they call them two cut, sometimes they call them hex cut, sometimes three cut, sometimes Charlotte, and those terms can overlap in a lot of ways. So technically, I do think they can fall under Charlotte's, but I think traditional, like old school Charlottes, can be even more, it's an even more exaggerated cut than that. And silver lined beads tarnish. Interesting. You're teaching me about shades of color instead of just purple, using 2 to 3 shades of purple from lilac to grape for a big impact. Yay! Yes, and that's hard to do with mosaic materials because we cannot mix our colors like with paint. Artists that work in paint, um, even paper, you can layer transparencies on top of each other. But with our solid materials, we have a lot of restrictions in that way, which can be good, but also challenging. Okay, so this is I'm calling this the Phyllis Garden Party Treasure Bundle. And so we added that to the shop. I've assorted a couple bags. So the treasure bundle, this is another matchup. I actually put together 4 matchups because I have a problem estimating time, how long things are. It's like mosaic time blindness, where you just are unsure about how much time things are actually going to take. So this is a different matchup that I'll share in the future. And I was just kind of estimating how much we could fit in our usual treasure bundle bags. So I ordered some bigger bags, and we're going to use a bag that's about twice the size of our usual bundle bag for this collection. So if you order the Phyllis Treasure Bundle Mix, it'll be at least 12 ounces of a variety of the tile in the ceramic and these bigger matte tiles, the glass tiles, the mirror, the beads, and the rhinestones. Everything here will be included. And we always pack up the small little ones in these little baggies within the bigger bag. So this was just kind of to get my estimate, but that's in the shop right now, and we're testing this out. But I have 3 more bundles or matchups to share in upcoming Mosaic Monday. So let me know if this has been helpful and fun. When we were putting them together, Nev and I were both like, oh my gosh, we want to make these mosaics right now. Because it's so nice to have everything ready to go, like all the colors just ready to go, and you just know it works. Okay, so I have some frames, and I'm gonna just walk through some ideas. Let's see, where did my frame? Okay, here they are. Okay, so when I look at this mix, I think bird for sure. This one would be a go-to. Butterfly would be great for this mix. Here's our little bird. I have so many new shapes that I'm working on right now, and it takes a lot of time to get those up and going, but I really am excited to update our shape offerings because we've been using these a lot, but they are so versatile and they work well with a variety of different um, collections, and you can make it really bright and bold. You can make it soft and elegant. You could do just glass, you can do just china. They're really open to your own interpretation. But if I were working on this bird with this palette, I would probably start with one of this like enclosed little area. So I usually think about this wing as an accent, something fun to do here. And I could probably start with this rhinestone and maybe outlining that like right there. And for adhesive and all of that, I'm not going to mix any adhesive today, but if you are unfamiliar with epoxy clay, I have a couple of demos with that in our past Mosaic Monday lives, and in my classes and in the membership, we have tons of tutorials in there too. So here with these teardrop tiles, we could consider doing a little fan shape pattern here. And then I'd probably want to tuck in some of these tiny little, I'm always looking at the spaces that are created in between and then what can go in next. So I want this to be symmetrical, so I'm going to swap that out for this one. Wait, do I not have? Oh yeah, here it is. There we go. And then I could drop in these little tiny rhinestone pairs to fill in these gaps. So whenever you're creating spaces within pieces, I'm anticipating the next step. So what could fill in? And then depending on colors too, if you think, well, I've already used pink on the top, do I want to use pink again down below? Then you can easily swap one out. So maybe instead of the pink pear, you could drop in this blue Navette, or it looks like there could be room for both. So maybe just creating another little pattern in the mix could be a consideration, but then it looks like it's crowding a bit. So maybe not the blue. And when I put my clay down, I would also probably tint it to complement one of these colors too, but I think it'd probably work okay to use it just as it is. Sometimes it's nice just to use the clay as it comes in the white. And when you're working with china like this, if there's white in the background behind the flowers, it's easier to do that, just to use the clay as white. And then it takes on that same feel of just a white backdrop with the colors as accents. So that creates continuity through your design. Okay, so that could be a consideration here. And then once you establish this fan little accent here, you could just continue echoing those lines until they converge with your top. Or you could also do this outline of the rhinestone on the bottom too before you add those teardrops. But let's say you don't want the pink rhinestone on the top. You could do even a row of alternating colors of glass. And I would cut these in half and do maybe an elongated rectangle. And they could go the up and down vertically, or you could lay them horizontally. So first I would consider this way because it fills up more space. It fills up more space faster going up and down this way. But you could tip them to their side and go the more linear route. That's fun too. Okay, and then I would probably want to add one of the other materials in there since we have rhinestones, tile, glass. Maybe it's time for some mirror. So you could do mirror next. And then that's probably where you would start having a little bit. So if this line matched up and went up on the top, you'd end up having a little sliver of space to fill in the middle here. And that could be easily filled in with a patch of the pattern of the china, just a little pop of some flowers peeking out there might be fun. Okay, and then for the tail, oh, I forgot about these fun rhinestones. These could be also used in this kind of way where you have that fan shape. And this is also what we did in the tulip too. We had 5 of them in the tulip like that. So that works really well with this shape, but we could also use them as little feathers dropping down in the tail here. I just love this little stretch of space. And usually when I do this bird, I end up bringing the body up to here and this pattern stops about here. So we could do something like this. These blues might not be, I probably wouldn't do that together, but even if you didn't use your teardrops there, you could drop a teardrop in between these Pentagon rhinestones and just cut a little bit off the top to make it match up in the same size. And then that will leave a little bit of space on the bottom for a consistent row of something else. So it's really just creating patterns and the process of elimination with other materials, figuring out what works together. Even if you had to, if you're limited in materials, so let's say you have 3 of the tiny teardrops, 3 of the big ones, and 3 of the medium ones, you can still use them in a pattern like this and just work that into your pattern. So you have the smaller ones on the outer, and then you're working in towards the bigger ones in the middle, and then maybe fading out and working back to the smaller size again. So just little challenges like that. It's like little mosaic brain teasers. Just checking your questions and comments. Looks like everyone's doing okay. All right, so then you could drop in maybe a little scalloped circle somewhere. So I love cutting these in half. These are also great for creating scalloped patterns. And I'd probably save the plate and use the plate for filling. So once I'm done closing in a space, then I would go back in with the flowers and just patch in and fill in with the flowers. So, and then for the beads, the seed beads, this little space at the top here, that could be easily just patched in with one pop of seed beads, maybe a bright or an under-seated. Could we do the yellow there without feeling out of sorts? I think that could work. I think it could. Okay, I'm gonna break this plate up. And and see how the flowers lay in. So when I break up a plate, I usually am tipping my wheels to the side, especially if the flowers are in the center. So you might have to sacrifice a little bit of the pattern to get to what you really want. And a lot of these flowers on this piece specifically fall on the rim where it curves. So I can't really use a lot of these flowers unless I cut that curve out. So there's a little bit that we can use here. So I just get right into that bend and cut the bend off. And well, I guess if you split it in half, it kind of flattens out that way. So you could use it still. But what I'm really after is the center. And we need to get over the foot here. So I'm just going to cut in until I can get my wheels over the foot. And then I usually turn it over so I don't have to watch, because sometimes your cuts will get into the flowers and there's just no helping that. So I usually turn it over and I don't look at it while I do this, so I'm not overthinking it. Because sometimes it's kind of painful when you see the flowers get cut into you, but it's okay. We can still use whatever we end up with. Okay, so that's our rough cut. And then I'll go in and just nibble off these sharp pieces. Oh, and yes, I should be wearing my safety glasses. So make sure you wear your safety glasses and sweep up any glass shards or little plate shards that come up, or vacuum them up. That's what I used to do when I worked on my dining room floor for years. I just would vacuum. Every time I worked on my mosaics, I did a good vacuum. These days, I have the luxury of being able to just walk away from my messes, which is not a good habit. Okay, so here's my little medallion of flowers, and I didn't have to cut into them so much. I actually have quite a bit of them left. So this can be worked in through the body here. And I would just keep, depending on how much I have, will determine where I'm going to use them. So if I'm limited, I will just keep mosaicing in until I have enough space left over to just use the flowers to fill in. So let's say I'm just filling in a negative space like the belly here. And this is similar to how I did the chicken. So chicken, I just pieced in floral pieces to fill in that extra negative space. And these two pieces were more, well, this one was a little bit a mix of planned and random. So filling in, but I also use tracing paper to map out how to capture certain parts of the pattern to match up or the placement of them within the mosaic. So these pieces were more, oh, it's doing that thing again. These pieces were more planned out and thought through before putting the china in. I don't know why it does that. Sorry. Okay, so here's our bird right here. So that's how I would approach this piece. What timer? Oh, we went over an hour. Okay, well, thank you all for joining me today. I hope this was fun. I hope this gave you some ideas to jump off from. If, like I said earlier, if you'd like this Tesserae collection of all these materials, we have little bundles in the shop under Phyllis's Garden Party, and we'll be shipping those out later this week. Let's see. I want to tell you quickly about my membership. If you're new here and you want to learn more about mosaics, the best place to do that is in my membership. So in there, I'm going to be adding a new class next month. We have several classes already available and lots of tutorials and deep dives into specific topics. And we have live meetings like this and so much more. Um, Thank you, Judy. Yes. And then let's see, my next live is going to be April 13th. Um, and let me know if you want more of these matchups. This was fun. Like I said, I have three more prepared. I don't know why I thought I could do four of these today, four matchups. So I just did this one but I have three more ready to go. So I'll likely do those at least. All right, everyone, well have a great Monday and I'll see you next time. Bye.